Will the Seattle Seahawks be able to find some balance in their edge room for 2025? What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well on this Wednesday. And we're going to talk a little bit about pass rushers, specifically edge rushers today, because this is one of my favorite things to think about when it comes to football in general and when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks. So we're going to be talking about pass rush rotations throughout the years as a Seahawks fan. And we're going to be talking about what we can learn from some previous data points. First, though, real quick, I want to say I'm going to be streaming on the Bleacher Report tonight, but we're going to be going live early. The NBA draft is tonight, and I want to be done with the Bleacher Report stream before the draft. So I'm going to be going live at 4:30 PST. So here on the West Coast, it's going to be 4:30. We're going to be done at 5, and then we're going to be moving on. So hour and a half earlier than normal. So if you want to be there, that's the time to be there. You have to download the app if you want to get into the stream. And I believe you can watch without an account. But if you want to comment on the stream, you have to make an account. So up to you. But tonight we're just going to be talking about the latest and greatest Seahawks discussion points. Again, we're in the slow part of the season, but there's still stuff to talk about. So be there. Okay, so we got some data that I put together here in this chart that I just want to take a look at here. And I've done this before, but this was like 4 years ago I probably did this. So it's good to revisit it and examine what really makes a good pass rush tick, and therefore what you can do when trying to figure out what your team needs to be able to do to get back to that good pass rush. So please click the thumbs up button on this video. Subscribe if you're new. Click the bell for notifications. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to support the channel. What I've done here is I've gone back to 2010, excuse me. So 2010, this is the first year of Pete Carroll and the first year of John Schneider. And I have put together a chart listing out the snap counts of his top edge rushers in every season. I went top 4. I could have gone 5 deep most seasons, but it wouldn't have all fit on the screen. And I don't think the 5th edge rusher matters typically that much. You know what you need to know after you look at the top 4. So we have the player, and then we have the number of snaps they averaged per game during that season. And I think you can learn a lot from this. The data is not always going to be perfect because sometimes these guys miss games. Sometimes these guys miss a lot of games. But I definitely think there's some good stuff to learn here as a football fan. Like, you look at 2010. The Seahawks in 2010 were terrible. Yes, they won the division. Yes, they won a playoff game, but it was a pretty miserable team. They had very few good players. Some of the good players they had didn't even play the whole season with them. Remember Marshawn Lynch, we traded for him. There was a lot of scrambling just to get a team together, just to field a team. And they had one of the worst ranked offenses and defenses in the league. So it's a bad team. It is the worst team of the Pete Carroll, John Schneider era in terms of actual ability to get things done. And you look at the top 4 edge rushers on this team. And the first thing that jumps out to you is the quality of the players, right? Chris Clemens was great. He was maybe the best player on this team, or yeah, I don't know about that. Maybe he was certainly top 3. He was certainly, I think, the best player on this defense by a country mile. You could have a little bit of a debate with him and Marshawn Lynch, but I'm not going to get into that. Raheem Brock was okay, right? He was okay. But then you got 7 games of Red Bryant and Kentwan Balmer. So the players aren't good. But look at the criminal overuse of your best player here. Chris Clemens in 2010 averaged almost 62 snaps a game. There are seasons the Seahawks have had relatively recently where their defense as a whole doesn't even average 62 snaps a game. It doesn't happen often, but that tells a good chunk of the story right there. You've got your best player, and you're being put in a situation where you're just like, we got to put him out there so much. And part of the reason is because you're playing a lot of snaps, because your defense is bad and your offense is bad, and that creates a feedback loop. But it's also just because he's the only guy you trust to get the job done out there on the edge, and you're like, we got to put him out there. And for the most part, 2010 is kind of an overall aberration here because we played so many snaps defensively because the team was so lackluster. But you can put it together, right? I mean, Red Bryant, it's only 7 games, but he played over 40 snaps a game. Kentwan Balmer, 35 snaps a game. Who is Kentwan Balmer? But going beyond that, again, you're trying to find the patterns here. You're trying to find the interesting data that you can learn from. You get to 2011, Chris Clemens still getting criminally overworked, 58 snaps a game. Red Bryant up to 44, and he plays the whole season. Raheem Brock goes down to 34, a little bit more than 34. And they don't really have a fourth guy. Tony Hargrove was the closest thing. He averaged about 20 snaps a game. And a good chunk of those snaps were on the interior. So he was the closest thing we had to a fourth edge, I guess. But realistically, I don't even know if I would say that he played more than 10 snaps a game at edge, if you were to actually parse it out. And then we finally get to some seasons where things start to turn around. And 2012, the Seahawks had the best defense in the league. Now, they mostly had the best defense in the league because they had an incredible secondary. They had really good young linebackers. The pass rush was not the main reason why the defense was good, but look at the patterns here. For one, the players are getting a little bit better, right? Now we've got first-round pick Bruce Irvin playing 27 snaps a game, and he's your third guy. But Chris Clemens getting a little bit of a reduced workload, 54 snaps a game. Red Bryant, less than 40. And you've got Jason Jones, who wasn't a great player, but he's giving you 26 and a half snaps a game. So you're balancing it out a little bit. You're spreading things out without compromising your defense too much, and look at the reward that you got. And then you get to 2013, which is, of course, one of the great defenses of all time. Look at how perfect this is. Chris Clemens is the only edge rusher on the team who plays more than 40 snaps a game, and he only played 14 games. 40 and a half snaps per game for Chris Clemens. He's literally getting 21 snaps per game off compared to where he was in 2010. Michael Bennett, bring him in, 37 and a half. Cliff Averill, 37 flat. Red Bryant, 32. It's this perfect spread of balanced, rotating guys in and out and in and out. Just everything you could want in a defense, and to the surprise of no one, it was one of the great defenses in NFL history. Nobody's getting tired, nobody is being overworked, and everything just meshes together in perfect harmony. And Bruce Irvin, by the way, he was your 5th guy this season. I could have listed him, I didn't, but Bruce Irvin, that's your 5th guy, and he's providing non-trivial snaps too. Now, I know that he didn't have a big role this year, but he's your 5th guy. Usually your 5th edge rusher is just kind of almost like a throwaway player you don't think about that much. Our 5th guy this year was a legitimately solid player and made non-trivial contributions here. This is not something you're going to capture all that often, but it is what you are striving for when you're trying to balance out your edge rusher room. Now, you go forward to following years, like 2014, which still, the defense was still the best in the league. It wasn't quite as good. And you can maybe start to see some of the cracks if you take a look at the edge rusher snap counts. It's not extreme, but we're getting somewhere bad. Chris Clemens is gone. Red Bryant is gone. Michael Bennett carrying a much bigger load, 52 snaps per game. Cliff Averill, bigger load, almost 45 snaps a game. And Bruce Irvin, now Bruce Irvin isn't playing all of his snaps at edge at this point. He is doing some linebacker stuff. But either way, he is still your next guy on the edge rusher tier chart. 46 snaps a game. Maybe half of those are off ball and half of them are on ball, something like that. And then you got O'Brien Schofield. So you sacrifice some of the comfort you feel utilizing your fourth edge rusher, and you have to put that load onto guys like Bennett and Averill. They have to play more. Bruce Irvin, same thing. And again, Bruce Irvin didn't play a ton of snaps on the ball because of the way the defense was set up, but you can see that that's just a little thing that happens that takes away the freedom and flexibility that your defense has, and it makes things just a little bit worse. And then over the next couple years, you've got 2015, it's kind of the same, right? Bennett's usage goes down a little bit, but Averill's goes way up. Irvin getting used more. The upshot here is that this is the rookie year of Frank Clark. He's getting 21 snaps a game, 21 and a half, but he's a rookie. You can't lean on him that much. You used him about as much as you used O'Brien Schofield the previous year. So it's almost the same thing. It's the same idea. And things are starting to trend in a not so great direction. Cliff Averill the next year, he takes the lead. 52 snaps a game. Not criminal, but you're pushing it. And Bennett, now he's missing time. Bennett misses 5 games in 2016, and he plays in the games that he plays over 51 snaps a game. You're putting a lot on those two guys, and now Frank Clark steps up, 45 and a half. That's good. But you don't really have a fourth guy this year, right? Cassius Marsh, who was just a guy, and he gets 24 and a quarter snaps a game. You don't feel good enough about him to give him maybe like 30. If you give him 30 even, now you're taking a little bit of the load off of Averill and Bennett, but you're not there. Mentally, you can't do it. And then you get to 2017, and this was the year things really broke, right? This was the year the Seahawks defense finally stopped being elite. Remember, we had the #1 defense in the league 4 straight years, would have been 5 if Earl didn't break his leg in 2016. Michael Bennett playing 58 snaps a game. That's how bad things got. That's how desperate this team was to field good edge rushers. Bennett had to do everything, and he played a lot. I don't think he was that effective in 2017. It was far from my favorite Michael Bennett season with the Seahawks, so it came back and bit you. And then you had Frank Clark. His role stepped up a little bit to 26 and a quarter, so that's fine. But after those two guys, it was a mess. Dion Jordan played 5 games at the end of the season, 27 snaps a game. Brandon Jackson was your fourth guy, about 22 snaps a game. And the thing that really doesn't get captured here is the rotation of other guys that we tried to make work. Cliff Averill had a career-ending injury in game number 4. He would have been the guy. Maybe things would have been okay with him, but Averill gets hurt very early. Dwight Freeney joined the team for like a month, played okay, but ultimately there were too many shortcomings in his game. We had to let him go. There might have been one other guy as well. And you get what you get. You get a defense that ends up being approximately a little above average on the season, which is a big downfall from where they were the previous 5 years, even the 6 years, honestly. So you can see that these things are starting to really take a negative effect. Now, the next year, the problem wasn't necessarily the rotation. Like, if you look at this, it's not bad, right? Frank Clark is your top guy, 45 and a half snaps. This was his big breakout year. Quentin Jefferson, he's playing a lot of edge this year, 35 snaps a game. Brandon Jackson, 29. Dion Jordan, 25. That sounds fine. The problem in 2018 was the only guy that's really good here is Frank Clark. And Quentin Jefferson is okay, but Brandon Jackson and Dion Jordan, that didn't really go anywhere. We got a little bit of Rasheem Green. I think we got a little bit of, God, this was 2018, so this may have been the year that we looked at the guy we traded for Clowney the next year, the Jacob Martin. Those guys got a little bit of work, but they were not particularly effective. So, excuse me. This year, the pass rush was actually okay because Clark and Jaron Reed were so good. But you look at this, and you can see why there's a problem. It's not the rotation. It's the players just aren't very good. And then you go to 2019, you swap out Clark with Clowney, who I think was better than Clark because of his all-around game, but neither guy is hyper elite. And Clowney misses 4 games. You're still leaning heavily. Now you're leaning even heavier on Quentin Jefferson. Rasheem Green takes a big role, and he's just a guy. Brandon Jackson steps up. He's just a guy. It's the same problem. It's not the rotation. The rotation is actually kind of working. The rotation is relatively balanced. The players are just not very good. And then things get into the realm of the really not very good in 2020 in the edge rusher room. They had no answer for the edge rusher room in 2020. This was the COVID year. The top snap getter at edge for the Seahawks in 2020 was Benson Mayowa, who missed 3 games, 44 snaps a game. Benson Mayowa, a pretty pure definition of a journeyman. Carlos Dunlap was the next guy, and he only played half the season because he was a trade. We got him in a trade. So 40 snaps a game. LJ Collier, 35 snaps a game because somebody had to play. And Alton Robinson, remember Alton Robinson? 14 games, 24 snaps a game. So this was probably the low point. The only good player in the edge room this year really was Dunlap, and he was there for half the season. There's not enough talent. So it's 2 different ways to have an ineffective pass rush we're seeing here, right? Like in the mid 10s, we have talented pass rushers that are just not getting rotated properly. And then you get to the late 10s, early 20s. It's just more like the players just can't get it done. And then 2021, you've got Rasheem Green as your top snap getter. And Rasheem Green, he's another journeyman at this point. He's just a guy. He's just whatever, 50 snaps a game. Darrell Taylor, 34 snaps a game. This was the year we kind of found out he was just very, very mediocre as a player. Kerry Hyder, journeyman, giving you 34 snaps a game. By the way, I know that some of these guys don't play all their snaps on the edge, but most of these guys play most of their snaps at the edge. That's why I listed them. And then Dunlap, 28 snaps a game. He's the one guy who's good, but he was so old and worn out by this point that you couldn't play him as much as you probably wanted to. 2022, this was the post-Russell Wilson trade year. You can kind of see things get out of balance again. You've got Nwosu playing a little too much. Nwosu's good, but he probably shouldn't be playing 53 snaps a game. And then you're pulling Bruce Irvin off the couch, and he ends up playing 36 snaps a game. Darrell Taylor, having kind of reached his ultimate form of just not being anything other than a mediocre pass rusher, 30 snaps. Rookie Boye Mafe, only able to give you 25 snaps a game. He's good, but he's just not ready. Not ready to take that next big step up. So now you're getting out of balance again. And you also have the issue of a lack of overall talent because Nwosu's good, but Irvin's old. And I already said what I said about Taylor and Mafe. 2023, okay, this was the final year of Pete Carroll. Boye Mafe, 50.5 snaps a game. Darrell Taylor, almost 31. And then Derek Hall is your third guy with about 18 snaps a game and no real pass rush impact whatsoever, by the way. And then Nwosu, who, granted, that this was the guy you were planning on leaning on, 6 games and he's gone. He does play a lot in the 6 games, 47 snaps per game approximately. He clearly would have been 1A with Boye Mafe's 1B, but didn't happen. So you've got kind of 2 problems here, right? On the one hand, you've got substandard players as your number 2 and number 3 edge rushers, and then you've got the injury making your top of the depth chart not look good. And then you get to last year, 2024, Boye Mafe, 40.5. Derek Hall, about 40, 39.5 if you want to be pedantic. Draymond Jones. Now, he played a little bit inside last year, but for the most part, he was playing on the edge. 36 snaps a game. Uchenna Nwosu only played 6 games. I wouldn't read much into this, especially because in 2 of those games, he was clearly trying to work his way back into things, but almost 32 snaps a game. So 2024, this is kind of what I'm circling right now. This makes sense, right? This feels like you're getting back to where you want to be. You've got Nobody over 41 snaps per game. You've got 4 guys that are being used evenly, relatively speaking. You've got 4 guys. Well, okay, let's say 3 guys that you like. And let's say Draymond Jones is just kind of the guy you're dealing with because he's there. And you're trying to make it work because you can't just dump him because of the contract. So this looks like 2013 more than any other season, just in terms of the pass rusher rotation. The difference is Nwosu got hurt and Draymond Jones wasn't very good. Now this year, here's where this is leading to, right? 2025. Is this the year we get back to what we saw in 2013, which is where you want to be? You've got 4 guys, really 5 guys if you want to push it, but you've got 4 guys listed: Clemens, Bennett, Averill, Red Bryant, that you feel really good about, and you're giving them all an almost equal amount of action on the field. That's what we're talking about. That's what you want. That's why I do Snap Count Monday, because I think snap counts are one of the most interesting and powerful things that a football team has control over. 2025. Can we get to a place where, because again, remember, Pro Football Focus did an article ranking every edge rusher in the league from 1 to 32, or the top 32. No Seahawks were on that list. We do not have a top-end edge rusher. We do have Leonard Williams, and maybe that's more valuable than an elite edge rusher. It probably is. But we don't have the elite edge. So this is how we find a way to make the edge room elite without one elite guy. And honestly, if you look at this, we've never really had the elite guy, right? We've had very, very good players. Chris Clemens was great. Michael Bennett was great. Cliff Averill was really good. Frank Clark had one really good season here. I loved Clowney when he was here. I thought Clowney was great. But none of these guys are Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Nick Bosa level players. They're not even really all that close. So they find different ways to look elite. This is how you get to an elite place. So you take a look at what they did last year. By the way, I'm sorry I say so much. I've had a couple people point that out to me that it's almost like a verbal tick. I just end up segueing from one topic to another, and so kind of becomes my catch-all word to just switch from one topic to another or one point to another. But you see how close they got in 2024. And look, it wasn't always everything we wanted it to be. The edge rusher room for the Seahawks in 2024 was very effective at getting pressure on the quarterback. And they did that even though they probably didn't have the horses they would have liked to have had. Nwosu missed most of the season, and Draymond Jones was leaned on heavily despite being a relatively mediocre player. So there it is again. You add DeMarcus Lawrence instead of Draymond Jones. You get Nwosu for probably more than 6 games. Derek Hall, year older. Boye Mafe, hopefully healthy. Could this be the year where the Seahawks at edge just have 4 guys rotating in and out, in and out, in and out, nobody playing more than 40, 41 snaps a game? And if that happens, can they produce results the way that 2013 team did? I think the answer is probably yes. I think they can create a similar effect. Let me know what you guys think. This video has been way too long, but I really wanted to explore this because this to me is the thing separating the Seahawks. Well, okay, I don't want to put it that way, but if they do this, they will have a top 3 defense in the league. See you guys later. Go Hawks.